If this message has found you today, trust that it has arrived at exactly the right moment. The energy surrounding this reading feels incredibly deep, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Someone carries your energy with them every single day, even when they're busy, even when they're surrounded by people, even when life demands all of their attention. Somehow your presence finds its way into their heart. They don't always understand why. It simply happens. One moment they're focused on work, driving somewhere, or having a conversation, and the next moment your face, your voice, or a memory connected to you suddenly fills their mind. This isn't something they're trying to create. It arrives unexpectedly. Spirit says they've tried to dismiss these thoughts more than once. They've told themselves they're imagining things. They've tried to convince themselves that enough time has passed. Yet every attempt to move on somehow brings them right back to you. The cards show that this connection entered their life differently from anything they've experienced before. Usually they think carefully before making emotional decisions. They're cautious. They protect themselves. They rarely allow anyone to reach the deepest parts of their heart. But with you, none of their usual rules seem to work. Something inside them recognized your energy before their mind could explain it. That's why they've struggled so much. Logic keeps asking questions. Their heart already knows the answers. Spirit keeps showing me that this person often wonders whether meeting you was simply a coincidence. Every time they ask themselves that question, another memory appears to remind them that this connection feels far too meaningful to be accidental. They've begun believing that your paths crossed for a reason. Whether you call it destiny, divine timing, or simple fate, they no longer believe your meeting was random. Another powerful message is coming through. This person quietly reviews your history together. Not because they're living in the past, but because they're finally seeing everything through a clearer perspective. Moments they barely noticed before suddenly carry enormous meaning. A conversation they once overlooked now echoes in their mind. A smile, a goodbye, a moment of silence. They're beginning to understand what your heart was trying to communicate, long before they were emotionally ready to receive it. Spirit says they're connecting pieces that never made sense until now. The more they reflect, the stronger their feelings become. This person also carries something they rarely reveal. Regret, not because they regret meeting you. Quite the opposite. They regret the moments they weren't fully present. They regret allowing fear to speak louder than love. They regret believing distance would somehow make these feelings disappear. Instead, distance only made your importance impossible to ignore. The cards show many late nights, moments where the world becomes quiet, moments where they should be resting. Yet somehow your energy finds them again. Before they fall asleep, you're there. When they wake up, you're there. Sometimes they dream about conversations they wish had happened differently. Sometimes they replay memories, wondering what they could have done better. Spirit wants you to know these thoughts have become impossible for them to ignore. Another beautiful message says this person has been changing from the inside. They've been forced to face parts of themselves they avoided for years. Old fears, old insecurities, old emotional wounds. Meeting you became a mirror. Instead of blaming others, they're beginning to understand themselves. That inner work hasn't been easy. There have been moments where they questioned whether they deserved a connection like this. They've wondered if they were enough, if they had too much emotional baggage, if they waited too long. Yet every doubt somehow circles back to one truth. Their heart still chooses you. Spirit is also showing that they admire your strength far more than they've ever admitted. They've watched you continue living your life, growing, healing, protecting your peace. Even when they weren't close enough to tell you, they've been proud of the person you've become. Your resilience inspires them. It reminds them that healing is possible. Another message says this individual has finally realized something important. Love isn't only about strong feelings. It's about consistency. It's about honesty. It's about showing up even when conversations become uncomfortable. They're beginning to understand that emotional maturity requires vulnerability. For someone who's spent years protecting their heart, this realization feels enormous. The energy now shifts toward communication. Spirit says words that remain trapped inside them are becoming heavier every day. They've carried silent conversations with you inside their own mind. They've imagined explaining themselves. They've imagined apologizing. They've imagined telling you everything they never had the courage to say. There is one sentence repeating over and over. I wish I had told you sooner. Whether that's how much they cared, how deeply they missed you, or how afraid they truly were. Spirit says silence became heavier than honesty. That realization is transforming them. Another message coming through is that they no longer want connections built on uncertainty. They don't want guessing games, mixed signals, emotional confusion. They're craving something peaceful, something stable, something that allows both people to feel emotionally safe. Interestingly, they believe you're someone capable of creating exactly that kind of relationship. They don't see you as someone who needs constant excitement. They see someone who values loyalty, trust, respect, emotional security. Those qualities have become increasingly attractive to them. Spirit also wants to remind you that their silence was never equal to the absence of feelings. Many of the quiet periods happened because emotions became too overwhelming. Instead of expressing themselves, they withdrew. Not because they stopped caring, because they cared more than they knew how to manage. That doesn't excuse every decision, but it does explain part of the emotional process they've been experiencing. The cards now reveal a turning point. This person is no longer running from their emotions. They're sitting with them, accepting them, learning from them. They're becoming someone who can finally speak honestly instead of hiding behind uncertainty. Spirit says they're preparing for a conversation that has existed inside their heart for a very long time. For some of you, this conversation may happen sooner than expected. For others, the energy is simply asking you to know that healing has already begun within them. Another beautiful message is appearing. When this person imagines happiness, it isn't built around grand gestures. They imagine simple moments, sharing meals together, laughing over ordinary conversations, supporting each other through difficult seasons, growing older beside someone who truly understands them. Somehow, every future they picture now includes you standing beside them. That image keeps returning, not because they're forcing it, because it feels natural. Spirit says they've finally stopped asking whether these feelings are real. Now they're asking how to honor them properly. That shift changes everything. Instead of resisting love, they're preparing themselves to become someone worthy of maintaining it. Finally, Spirit wants you to hear one last message. Whether communication has been strong, weak, or completely silent, your energy has never truly left their heart. The invisible thread connecting both of you has remained intact, even through confusion, even through distance, even through unanswered questions. This connection has continued growing beneath the surface. Trust your own intuition. If you've been feeling their energy unexpectedly, if memories have appeared without explanation, if you've sensed change before seeing physical evidence, there may be more happening beneath the surface than you currently realize. Thank you for allowing me to share these messages with you today. If this reading found you when your heart needed reassurance, quietly claim this beautiful energy for yourself. Remember that every collective reading speaks differently to each soul, so honor what resonates and release what does not. Until next time, continue protecting your peace, trusting your intuition, and believing that what is truly meant for you will always find its way home.